Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today's show is going to be a little different. Um, uh, I'm basically going to be showing you guys what I look forward to. If, like, say, if we got a tournament coming up, if we're going to go pre-fishing somewhere, um, I'll actually look online first, and a lot of that is, I'll look on, what outside bends I want to cover. Um, you know. what kind of ledges I want to be looking at, if there's any kind of holes that I want to target and stuff like that. Any wing dikes, trail dikes, box dikes. I mean anything, any outside bends. If I can see any kind of channel swings that I want to concentrate on, and all this will help you out before you actually get there. That way you can spend more time fishing than scouting. So if you have a certain spot locked down that you want to go to, you can go to that spot right away instead of searching for that spot while you're on the water. So I'll just go right into it. This is my mappings uh, file. Has all my mappings on it. We'll go to maps first. Um, we're going to go ahead and, since there is a big tournament coming up in St. Joe, we'll go ahead and go to St. Joe and kind of look and see, what we got to deal with. We'll look upriver, look downriver, and you can change this mapping too to where you can see, um, you can see any kind of uh, like streams or something like that coming into the river. If the river is rising, you guys got to follow the fish. If the river's rising and you're sitting in the middle of the current or on the tip of the wing dike, chances are the fish aren't going to be there, because if the river is rising, more than likely the fish will follow the river and actually move up in shallow and start feeding on food that they never have fed on before. So like we went up from St. Joe, and I believe they call that the Brown Excess. But it's Nottoway River. So I'm liking that. I wonder how deep that is, but I've been up the Nottoway River. It can get a little shallow, but when the river's rising, it's actually a pretty good place to check out, because that river's rising. Those fish are going to go up in the tributaries. So then what I'll do is once I found that, then I'll go ahead and go back to satellite. So then I can check it out and say, so I'm gonna head up the Nottoway River. Usually around bridge structures, there's some deeper holes. If you can get up here to an outside bend. So these two outside bends right here probably be key, because of the fact that any current coming down this river here is going to hit that bank and start creating like a washout hole there. So that's going to be a key spot, if I'm going to go up there and fish that tournament. Unfortunately, I'll have to work, but this is just help you guys out, figure out that maybe these places, I might want to check these places out. So anywhere there's water coming into the Missouri River would be a good place to check, because of the fact that that's going to hold bait fish. And wherever there's bait fish, there's going to be fish feeding on those bait fish. So I know a lot of guys travel a long distance. So, I mean, this little video might help you out too. So if you go, say, like, well, instead of going upriver, I'm going to go downriver. And a lot of people might think it's a long ways away, which it is. You got the Kansas River in Kansas City. A lot of guys will be traveling to that. So if you wanted to figure, look at that and check things out and say, oh, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good, you can check it out. So mapping's only going to tell you so much as far as just looking at it, because a lot of these mappings was taken back when it was really, really flooding, or right before it, or I'm not quite sure when they took it, but they can be inaccurate sometimes, like a lot of times. So you can't really see where the wing dikes or the trail dikes are. Pretty sure this is probably when the river was high. So for instance, this spot right here, we're just strolling down there, and you can actually see from this satellite image that there's a current seam because there's a washout hole. So there's a current seam right there. If I was to go anywhere and fish, it would be right above that current seam. I would probably beach the boat right there in that little sand area, and I would probably fish right out on that current seam, because any fish coming up here is going to be right on that current seam, fishing for bait or getting out in the channel. So hope that helps you out, which I think this is actually, I'm believing there's probably might be a wing dike right there, because of the fact that it's got the washout. Usually wherever there's a washout, there is a wing dike. So a lot of good things too is just point out your wing dikes. You can go to other maps as well. But to help you guys too with Google Maps, if you're going to go fishing somewhere, if you're for fun, for a tournament, anything like that, it also helps you out to look for lodging, look for food. Like for instance, so here's we're on Google Maps right now. I can go up to the search bar, try restaurants, coffee, whatever. Just type in food. Just type in food. Hit the search down in the right hand corner, and it will tell me every food restaurant in St. Joe, from Taco John's, Cabana Grill, Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A, Arby's. These are all fast food restaurants. I imagine if you zoomed in, you can get more of a search of like actual restaurants you can go eat and stuff like that. So that'll help you out too. Let's go ahead and do hotels. And that's all you got to do is type in hotels and hit search, and it'll look for every hotel in that area in St. Joe, or St. Joe, in St. Joe. So if you look in all the hotels, you got, there's 4 or 5 hotels there. There's a couple closer. Another thing, if you want to look for places to stay, is Airbnb. That's also another resort. Usually Airbnb, you can stay in some nicer places to where you don't have to worry about your vehicle or boat getting broken into and getting stuff stolen. So that'll help you out there too. So on that, okay, enough with Google Maps. So if I was going to go to St. Joe, I would check it out on this first. Check out, like I said, it's hard to judge if there's any kind of big log jams, because they might not be there when you go fishing, because of the fact that this Google Maps is kind of outdated a little bit. Like I said, I'm not sure when they took this satellite photo. So we'll go to the next one, and we'll go to Navionics. For some reason it's thinking. But usually takes a little while once it figures out the device and where I'm at. So we'll go ahead and head down St. Joe, since that's where we're basing it off of. And there were a couple of places where we checked out, like them little cutouts were just down below St. Joe. So you've seen the cutouts that I was looking at. Basically, that's right where there was a wing dike. So if I was to fish St. Joe in high water, this is basically how I would fish it. So you got your outside bend right here. Okay, that's going to be basically, they call them hot. It's called hot water, hot rocks, because it's cooking. So any fish that are going to be traveling up this river, they're basically going to be hugging that outside bend, because they're not going to be wanting to go in and out of wing dikes. So if I was to fish the Missouri River, I would concentrate on this last wing dike, and I would just fish just down from it, because the fact that on the top side of the river here, as you're looking on the top side of the map, would be your secondary chance or current seam, to where it'll be slower currents, to where these fish, when they get out of traveling up that outside bend, they're going to come to the first spot, and that's where they're going to kind of rest a little bit to try and you know, because they've been traveling up heavy current. They're going to come in behind this wing dike, rest a little bit. They're going to try and eat some, you know, find some food. So if you happen to be sitting there right behind this wing dike just a little ways, or even right up above it in between the first two wing dikes before the outside bend, that would be a good key place to set up. So, and with Navionics, this will kind of pinpoint around where your wing dikes are. They might be just a little bit off, but as you pull this up while you're on the water, it'll actually show exactly where you're at, so where you can kind of have a good idea where those wing dikes are. So that way you're not busting, you're not busting through a, top of wing dike. You're not blowing your lower unit out. So you guys see this pink line running right down the middle of the river. Those are usually, that's the lines that the barges usually take. So if you keep yourself on that line, that'll keep you out of harm's way as far as, hitting wing dikes or trail dikes or anything like that. So Navionics, that's, in the rivers wise, that's what I'll use it for. You can also find out where boat ramps are and stuff like that. That'll help you out too. And stuff like that. So Navionics, y'all, that's where you find out where Navionics is. It'll tell you where wing dikes are. It'll get a little bit more in depth. You can change it to, Navionics to where it might do a little bit more in depth of where your deeper water is. But on the river, it changes so much. So, a lot of times you'd have to update your cards and stuff like that. But majority of the time, it'll just show you where your wing dikes are, and then you can do the rest from there. So here's the biggest key feature. So if I'm going to St. Jude tournament and the Missouri River is high, a lot of people are like, oh, where am I going to fish? All the wing dikes are underwater, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Invest in gasoline. That's all I'm going to say. Because of the fact that in the springtime, usually spring rains, because usually this time of year, in a normal year, the Missouri's not high. It's at its normal levels, summer levels. Wing dikes are showing, but we haven't seen that in probably 6-7 years, maybe 5 to 7 years. We haven't seen that kind of Missouri River. So what I would do if the river's high like it is right now, I would invest in gasoline, and I would be making a trip to the Kansas River. So because when that river, when the Missouri River's on the rise, those big blues will go up the Kansas River and feed, because it's loaded with shad. It's loaded with, I've even heard people catching skipjack up in it. It's loaded with Asian carp, so the blues will feed on those too. So guys will go down river, and with this, it's called distance calculator. That's what the icon looks like. So that way you guys can look for that icon when you go look for it. So we're going to push on that. Distance calculator, how it works is I can actually draw exactly where I'm going to go. You can either pin it or draw it. So here's the ramp everybody's going to be taken off of. I can either pin it. Here's the pin right there. And then you can move it, and then the next pin, I'll put it down river a little ways. Okay, from there to there, it's 1.1 miles. Or you can draw it. So we'll go to the draw, and that would be your draw to where I can actually draw exactly where I'm going to go. And then if you want to move it, click on your lock sign where that's yellow, and that'll unlock it. And I'll zoom out a little bit, and I'll lock it again. And I'll actually go all the way around just like this, lock it, zoom out a little ways, just enough to where you can see the river, lock it again, we'll unlock it, lock it again, I'm just going to show you guys what it's going to take to get to Kansas City from St. Joe. Because I know there will be some guys heading down that way. And this will actually help you decide how much gas you're going to need. This is usually what I use when I'm going to fish the river, because I want to know how far away I am. I want to know how much gas I'm going to need. So you see we're close to St. Louis. So from St. Joe to the Kansas and Missouri River confluence is 82 miles. So if you're going full bore, if I'm going full bore, 53 miles an hour in my boat, well, downriver it's more like 56, 55, 56 in my boat. If I'm going full bore, I'll be able to make it there in half a tank. But then you have to realize on your way back upriver, you're going to be fighting a current. So you're going to be going a little bit slower, but you'll use more gas. So you'll want to, so if I was to do this, I would probably pack 15 to 20 gallons extra if I was going to go all the way down to the Kansas River. So I'll have, my original I think it's like 48 gallons is what I got. I'll have another initial 25 gallons extra in my boat, ready to dump in the tank whenever, I need it. So that way it'll get me back to the ramp, stuff like that. Just make sure you be careful, because if you're going downriver, the one thing you've got to always wonder, if you're going to the Missouri River and you're afraid of the Missouri River, you always want to be afraid of the Missouri River. You don't want to be afraid of it. You just want to be wary of what she can handle, because she could hurt you real bad. There's been a lot of deaths on these big rivers, and guys take them lightly, and the next thing you know, they end up, not making home to their family. So you just always got to be cautious. If you are cautious and you just want to be careful, my tip is to head upriver, because if something happens to your motor or anything like that, you can always float back to where your destination is, where you blasted off from. To where if you get close, and you can turn your trolling motor on and just float down river. That way your trolling motor just guides you. And then when you start getting close to your ramp, then you just use your trolling motor to get you closer to the ramp. That way you can load your boat. That's what I did the first couple of years I fished the Missouri River, just because, it's if you're not used to the Missouri River and its current, man, I tell you what, it'll it'll throw you for a loop. So, but it takes a little time to get used to it and get used to all that current, get used to finding the wing dikes, the trail dikes, balk dikes, and how to fish them, where to fish them. Like I said, it's a whole different beast to learn. So these are the three things that I would do. Do your scouting first, do the distance calculator, find out, how far you're going. Like I said, if you are afraid of the river and you're kind of cautious of it, head upriver to where if you have any issues at all, you can float downriver. Now, to your ramp. Now, if you're already going downriver and something happens, then you've got to call somebody to come get you, drive you up to your boat and trailer, come back. Then you got to drive your boat and trailer down to where. It can be a little bit more of a hassle, but just if you do go downriver, just be careful. So that's the biggest part. Be careful. Anytime your main motor's running, make sure you have your life jacket on, your kill switch on. That way, if you do get ejected from the boat, your boat will shut off, and you're not, all of a sudden getting nailed by your motor prop, or the boat's not running you over or doing whatever. So hope this helps you guys out. This is all the stuff that I've done over the years, and it's helped me out on how much gas I want. Like there was one time me and my wife went from Joe Wheeler State Park, and we drove all the way up to Gunnersville Dam for a Sea Arc tournament. Well, I didn't judge how much gas I needed, and we got all the way back to the paper mill. So we drove from Joe Wheeler State Park all the way up to Gunnersville Dam. It's 77 miles, I believe. That's what it was. And that was full blast all the way up there. And then we just spot fished all the way back. And we got to the paper mill, and I'll be damned if I ran out of gas. And I had my buddy Alex Nagy. They pulled us back in. So we didn't have much for weighing, but we did have fish, and it got us into the boat drawing. So hope this helps you guys out. It just kind of lets you know on how much gas you're going to need. Fishing spots, food places, hotels, everything. Like I said, hope this helps you guys out. Put more fish in the boat, have fun, and have a good time. So that's basically the deal. I know it's a boring one, but this is the more technical, advanced of what I do. We're not catching fish on this video, but hope this helps you guys out. So rock on, fish on, have fun.